Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today I'm going to take a break from building scenery in the Lego room and do something at the building desk. It's been a while, hasn't it? I'm going to do my first build in space, being a great big modular space station that I've been threatening to do for about 6 months, so I think I'll get on with that. Now, last time we did loads of marina work in the city, and you gave me absolutely loads of suggestions for improvements to earn yourself a shiny Bedoing, and I'll be doing those at a later date, but they were plentiful and quite amazing, some of them. So yeah, I just need a few splash type pieces to do them proper justice first. So yeah, coming soon. Anyway, back to our space station. My current space station, still stuck on the ceiling of the old Lego room, is a personal favourite. It was basically 2 copies of the 60227 Lunar Space Station from 2019 stuck together with a few more Robin Hood Bricks things added to make it packed and stacked. And those sets came from the Mars exploration kind of sub-theme of City, of which you've sent in a few sets since to augment my scene. Very good. And I always thought of it as kind of a staging point to taking over the moon and then to colonize Mars beyond that, just like Elon Musk is doing in real life with his wonderful rockets. So that is something I want to keep in the new Lego room as well, probably apart from all of the alien conquest battle scenes as a different build in space. So yeah, I do want to do a similar thing as that space station, keep all the wonderful big solar array and stuff like that, but make it even bigger, because bigger does equal better. There's a lot of fallacies that isn't the case, but it certainly is. So one of the other things that was a massive influence was the newer modular space station 60433 from 2024, which looks very cool indeed with its sort of ring structure with all the different modules kind of clipped to it. And I thought that looks absolutely great. Maybe I should buy 2 sets of that and combine them together. But I don't know, actually. Thinking about it a bit more, I think they've got a lot of issues. Obviously, the sort of circular, rotating sort of idea kind of lifted straight out of 2001 Space Odyssey is an absolutely fantastic plan. So that I think we're going to keep. But what I didn't like about that was that it didn't have the gravity going the kind of the right way, because all of the minifigures would be flung towards the outside and would kind of walk around the inside lip of the circle if it was done right. Just like when you're swinging a bucket of water over your head, the water gets pushed towards the outside of the container. But also, it didn't make much sense. You had to kind of come out of one module in space and kind of spacewalk to the next one to be able to get in it. I mean, they weren't joined together. So, well, I thought that was a complete mistake. After all that effort of joining them together, if they aren't linked, then, well, what's the point of joining them together? So I thought we should have an unbroken ring. So I got to thinking about how I could turn my current sort of set of modules, which are kind of a corridor, a junction, 2 side bits, another corridor, another junction, 2 side bits, and make them in a circle. Now that's going to be quite tricky, of course, because, well, of all the angles, and we can't have too many holes in the builds to let all the air out, of course, when we're in space. So getting those angles exactly right and they're not being weird sort of joins between pieces is very important as well. I think it's unavoidable that we're going to have some tiny ones, but yeah, not too many. So I don't think a literal circular build will work on the sort of scale we're thinking about, which is probably going to be about this diameter, maybe even bigger. So basically, we're going to essentially have to make an octagon instead. So we're going to need 8 kind of 45-degree angle turns, because if we do 4 90 degrees, we'll end up with a square, won't we? So if we have an octagon, I think that will be, well, almost circular. So that's what I'm going to call that. So yeah, my plan then is to use some of the modules and build some more modules to make 8 straight sections in space. Then to that, join them all together, obviously with 8 smaller 45-degree angled sections to get that kind of ring. And then I can add loads more details, like adding 2 solar arrays this time on opposite sides of that new donut, 2 airlocks, where I had just one before for people to get in and out of their sort of spacewalking activities. Two docking stations for ships, and last time the airlock was kind of shared by pedestrians, so to speak, and spaceships. So we'll have two dedicated ones of those for things like this to dock in position, and two kind of comms centers, I suppose, for communication, dishes and things like that on the other two. And then because we're getting all of our power from the sun, we need somewhere to store it. So I thought sort of central hub, kind of like that new modular space station set, would have a bit of structure, joining everything together, giving it some support, but also acting as a bit of, almost Star Trek sort of dilithium crystal type storage or something like that. I've probably ruined the lore there, but anyway, you get the idea. And that gives us the lovely 2001 Space Odyssey sort of wheel in space type look that you can imagine spinning on its own axis and creating that gravity for men to walk around the outside. So yeah, that is what we're going to do. So first, let's go to the Lego room and retrieve the old space station, because, well, we're going to have to sadly cannibalize a lot of its parts to make the new one. I don't think we've got enough space on the ceiling to do both, and I think this one will be a great improvement. So let's go and do that, and then we can start the build. Well, via the rocket launch, we have the old space station, and that is a very cool build, if you ask me. Lovely sort of H shape, or whatever you'd call that. Kind of linear, I suppose, if we're going for circular now. And we're going to be keeping a lot of this detail. I really like the docked supply ship on this end on the airlock, but we'll have two airlocks and two supply ships this time. All them sort of greebling on the outside. With the spacewalk scene and the dish and all that, so I'll have lots more of that as well. But my favourite part was always this lovely great big solar array with its 8 panels, and we'll have 2 of those on the new one as well. So although I do love this, I think the new one's going to be so much bigger. It will be absolutely amazing. And to all the doubters when we first did this that it wouldn't stay on the ceiling, well, it has. I'm going to have to be pulling it off rather than it falling naturally. So that is very good news for the new one as well. Because, wow, if you imagine an octagon using those pieces and 2 solar arrays and so on, it's going to be absolutely huge. So it's going to need a lot more sticky strips to keep it up. And, well, yeah, it might be a bit more vulnerable to falling off. But, yeah, this one didn't. So... Let's hope the new one won't either, because that would be a real disaster. Bits of space Lego absolutely everywhere. Now, while I'm here, I thought I'd show you the remnants of the old Lego room, which looks, yeah, pretty much untouched, actually. So, yeah, so much for being out by Christmas. But the edges are a complete sort of state where I've been taking it apart. And the floor, everything's all over the place, and the bridges are in disarray over here. So, yeah. It's kind of an ordered destruction, but I'm going to have to get a move on because, yeah, Mrs. Hood wants her room back. Anyway, I'll take off this space station and we'll take it down to the building desk. Well, that is easier said than done. This is the first time I've tried to pull it off, as you may imagine, and having a hand on either side and kind of pulling it off at a diagonal angle I thought would be sufficient, but no, it's so well attached that it started to pull apart the build in preference from detaching from the ceiling. So yeah, I might have to get a stepladder and get a bit more technical with it. Yeah, turns out it was very secure. Well, I got 2/3 of it off in one piece, but with pulling it off at an angle and all the rest of it having to support its own weight, it then disintegrated and smashed on the floor. But anyway, we are rebuilding it, so it's not the end of the world. Cool, let's get down and get building. Well, I have re-pieced together the old space station after its, what do they call it, unscheduled rapid disassembly, to make sure that mainly I had all the pieces retrieved from the floor, because I do need the majority of them for the new build, of course. I'm glad that didn't happen over the densely populated old city. Otherwise, well, we'd have been finding pieces for weeks and months afterwards, not to mention the casualties on the ground. Anyway, I thought I'd start the new build with some of the angled corner sections that make our octagon, and they're based on these very interesting pieces, of which I had quite a few in my collection, and I always thought, what on earth am I going to use those for? I bet I never get to them. Well, they're vital for an octagonal base in that they each do a 45-degree turns, and 8 45s equals full 360 degrees of a circle. So combining these with some wedge plates and some regular plates, I can get a nice sort of quarter segment, and I'll give that a bit more strength with another one on top. Then to bring it out the required distance from the center, just add a few more plates, 2 by 3 on the bottom there, and we can see our first problematic gap. It's kind of a diagonal 1 by 1 half stud, I suppose, isn't it? And I didn't like that. And the only part I could think of to fill it well was one of these curved slopes with the angle that they have on all the sort of Speed Champion sets and so on. And I thought it could go in like that. Now it looks a bit funny on the inside, but that's probably some more greebling. It's probably got a purpose. It's probably some sort of vent or check or I don't know on the inside. But on the outside, it's absolutely perfect at filling in that small gap in the floor. So yeah, I like it. It's staying. So there is our floor. And that can support some of these airlock pieces that make the whole station modular, joining with these 4 pins, all of the segments together. So we've got one there and one there, like that. And there you can start to see that angle going around the corner. And to give it some greebling on the outside, I thought rather than just using wall pieces, I could use all these containers, which are quite cheap. I got an absolute load of them all from one place. And maybe that's where all of the tools are kept for when you're doing your spacewalk and you need a space spanner to do some vital activity on the outside or something like that. Or maybe they're just a way of passing something from the inside to the outside. I don't know. Those places are absolutely covered in container space, aren't they? And then a nice curved quarter cylinder piece there. So we've got the white continuing, and I might put a sticker on there in due course. It looks like a space that could do with a sticker, isn't it, with no colour on it? But yeah, we'll see in the long run, because we've got quite a few of these pieces, of course. And then on top of that, I've got the exact same sort of setup as the floor, again, with some more green lights to sort of show everything's okay. Except this time on the outside, I've got the similar parts in light bluish grey for a bit of contrast. And I'm using tiles instead of the 2x3 plate, 2x3 tile and so on, just to make it look as smooth as possible. And there's another one of those curved slopes. Then it kind of dips in, and again, maybe that's a little vent that helps spin the thing if the jets sort of come at a different angle to create all that gravity, of course. So yeah, having imperfections is just part of the story, if you ask me. Now, there are a few imperfections left in that we've got a little sort of triangular gap in there, and in there, and in there, and in there. But not on this end, and we'll just have to imagine they're not there, because I think that's about as perfect as we can get it. I mean, we could over-engineer some more pieces in there, but to be honest, when it's all joined together in a circle, I don't think you'll even see them. And if we're being really pernickety, which I know a lot of you are, we've actually got the air gap going all the way through these mailbox pieces, but that doesn't exist either. So there we go. There is one of our quarter sections, and it's pretty robust. Should hold its own weight and so on. So that's pretty good. Now I need a lot more of those. So here is the mirror version for another corner. Oh, and it seems I've forgotten something. There we go. There's sort of a retro jet on the top as well. Oh, just push that down properly as well. There we go. And that'll help spin the thing and give some warning lights and all the rest of it. But 2's not enough either, is it? So here are another 2 to make 4 of our 8 corners. Now I think I'm going to do the other 4 slightly differently, attached to a different unit. So that is our first segment done. Yeah, pretty cool. Good. Well, there is 4 of our 45-degree sections done, but still need to do 4 more to complete our donut. And the next ones I'm going to do in pairs attached to the section in between them. And that's going to be quite a complicated T-junction where the straight section continues our donut loop, but the spur basically links up with an airlock on each side, which will be a whole nother module. So I'm going to base the whole thing on a plate and have a very similar setup on each side to what we did with the other corner sections, except one is open because it's permanently attached. So I'm going to have that clipping on there and this one clipping on here to give us, 2 more corners with our straight in the middle. Now I'm going to have to give that more strength by adding the second one of these on the bottom on each side. Da, 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 da. And it'll probably still get to fall apart while I'm doing this. There we go, but that's going to be a bit stronger. Now on the front, I've done this whole section here with the obligatory orange stripe and loads of connection points on the inside and on the outside. And there's our bit that's going to connect with that airlock section, so we can get people safely into space without sending all of our oxygen along with it. That looks pretty good there. And then on the inside of what will be the donut loop, we've got, get it the right way around, these sections here. Now I'm going to have to lift up that to get that in. There we go, and that should clip back on there, probably completely ruining the strength of it all, but there we go. Like that. So that's on the inside, and I thought it might be nice to have kind of a viewing gallery onto that inside, so I'm just going to do a 6x6 or rather 1x6x5 great big window in there. Now this is where the connection points all come in. We've got these ones on the inside, and I've just done a 1x1x1 2/3 modified brick with studs on the side at slightly different heights, because I thought, and I haven't tried this yet, but I thought it might work to have people, oh no, they aren't tall enough, are they, kind of attached to those, so we could see a scene of two people meeting. Now the question is, how bent would they have to be for that to work? But essentially I wanted to do something like this. Maybe he's helping him in the hatch, or maybe one is sort of going sideways or something like that, because remember, these people are going to be walking on the, what we think of as the outside wall of the donut as they're flung out with gravity. Now that might look a little bit rude at this point, I don't know, but essentially this is the sort of scene that I'm going to have to go for. I think I'm going to have to play around with that, aren't I, to get it all to work. But anyway, yeah, so they've got 2 attachment points. I'll play around with how to get them in the best position later. But there is our kind of corridor. So yeah, that is part of our donut around the outside. So on the top of that, I'm going to add another plate for our roof section for this T-junction. So that should push down on there, should push down on there. Whoop, yeah. I'm going to have to obviously lift all this off now, aren't I, to redo that scene. And then I can give that a bit more strength with the grey version of the 45-degree turn piece. There we go. And that now is nice and strong. Yes, good-o. So at least when I have put them in position, it'll be solid. Looks pretty good to me. Very nice. And onto the top of that, I thought I'd have extra communications and stuff like that, apart from the big dishes that we'll have elsewhere. Just loads of different communications for talking to satellites and things like that. And that's quite interesting, with loads of different pieces in different orientations and colours and all the rest of it. And that X will add up to something later that connects to the centre, and I'll have another one on the very bottom of that. But we've also got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Technic pins sticking out from the inside as well. And this is where I'm going to add lots of tanks for additional greebling. So I thought we'd need water tanks and things like that, which I can mark in blue, and, well, probably oxygen tanks, presumably air tanks, for the bottom as well. And initially I was going to put them like this, actually, with the 2 tips facing in, because when I was designing this on Lego Digital Designer, well, they didn't wobble around like that. They were held very firmly in position, looked very neat indeed. So I thought that looked lovely with the orange stripe lined up. But yeah, that doesn't really work in real life. So I thought I could join them together using the bottom section of this. So I've got a Technic axle, and I can make it a bit more colourful using one of these yellow, well, spacers. That's probably a better name for them. And then I can attach these to the pins facing the opposite way than I'd originally intended. And, oh, it still looks pretty good. Quite complicated, quite interesting. And I've got loads of those to basically add around the outside. And then that will complete, well, ish, our T-junction section. Do need to do that scene on the inside. Do need to add onto those top and bottom bits the connection to the middle bit. But yeah, this thing's going to be really complicated when it's done. Not just all of the different types of section being joined together and having stickies attached to them so they can stick to the ceiling, but then other sort of supply lines and so on attached after that to link it all together. So yeah, there is a double 45-degree viewing gallery section with loads of tanks and a connection for the airlock bit, comms on the top. That bit we aren't worried about because that's going to be the bit that's going to be attached to the ceiling like that. So we don't worry about the detail on there. We can imagine that all this stuff is on the other side as well, because in space you would use every flat surface just the same. But I think that looks really good. Yeah, could put more containers on these bits instead of the 1x2x5s, but we've got all this other stuff and that splash of yellow makes it quite interesting as well. Splash of blue as well. Yeah, what do you think of that? So there is a T-junction section, and obviously I'm going to need 2 of those. Whoa, there we go. Slight variation on this one, that I've got a different dish. This one's got the kind of arm piece with a little array with a dish and a ski pole, and this one's just a good old-fashioned space aerial. So yeah, very good indeed. And we've got another flat surface here on each of these, probably for another sticker, and on each of the ends. So yeah, we'll cake this thing by the end of it. But yeah, I like those. And that is really starting to bring us round. We could almost do a small donut now with all of these quarter turns. But yeah, it's going to be much bigger by the time we're done. Yes, we do have enough parts to make a space station already. 8 corners and 2 straights. Yeah, it's a bit congested, isn't it? But you get the idea, so that's quite cool. I've repositioned the people slightly differently from what I did before. So the pilot's being helped into the airlock with his tanks by the guy who's in the uniform. And it's a bit hard to see. It's a bit better in real life than on camera. But yeah, I'm tempted to change this trans brown, as they used to call it, with normal transparent panel, just so we can see it a bit better. But that glass does match all the other glass in the entire build, so I'm not entirely sure yet. I'll probably play around with it. As I say, I can see better into it than probably you can in real life. So yeah, anyway, that is as good as we can get, I think. We've got the similar attachment points on the other one, though I'm not sure I'm going to bother, but we'll see. Anyway, so that is what we've done already. 2 straights and loads of corners. 2 more straights now, and I'm going to do the docking bay for my 2 kind of supply ships, which have got the lovely Mars exploration logo on. And I've just changed this one slightly to put the boat tiles over the Technic holes on the back piece and change one of the other pieces that was in dark grey to black, because, well, it looks a bit weird like that. That looks a lot more neat, even though that will be facing the ceiling, so we won't see it anyway. And this one hasn't got a pilot in because it's going to be fully docked. Now, that's going to be docked with a regular straight section, which I won't go through the build for because it's the same as the original set, just my amendments to it. In the back wall, I've got a modified brick, so I can put on a plate and a tile. That's going to have the sticky pad on and be attached to the ceiling, which means this is going to be facing the floor of the Lego room, and the roof of the section is going to face the inside of the circle, so it's going to be sort of attached like that and going around in a circle, which means the ugliest side, the floor of this section, which makes sense because that's where the people are going to be standing, is on the outside of the circle. So with all of these sections, I've put my biggest sort of effort into sort of putting something nice on the floor, so it distracts from the fact that it's pretty ugly as it stands. And we've even got these Technic holes to consider as well. So we can put the regular roof on, which will all be facing the centre of the circle, as I say, with the bars on to attach minifigures and all the rest of it. But before I do that, I want to add the hatch, because obviously we'll need a hatch to get into the ship. Now, we don't need an airlock on this because it will make a nice connection, which none of the air will be lost, and presumably there's just enough space to have a minifigure crawl in through the back, past the engine, into there. Yeah, it doesn't look like it, does it? But anyway, that's what we're going with. So the hatch, I'm just making a bit more interesting using these wedge pieces here, just to give it a bit of sort of angle on the sort of outside of the dish piece. And that will go onto the floor. So yeah, you're sort of walking around, you've got the great big trip hazard of that circular thing, and then you open up a hole in the floor to descend into the ship. So we just need a connection point of how to do that there. So I'm going to have some of these rounded plates here, a Technic 2x6, that's important, and another one there. So that looks like that. And then we can get another one of these airlock pieces with 2 of its pins, a plate on the top, sorry, tile on the top, plate on the bottom, and that can get attached to the bottom and that Technic plate and form another kind of one of those airlock connection pieces. So we'll put the lid on there, and then we can simply attach our ship to the top and bottom pins, which are still free, and that will go like that. Cool. So very simple indeed. So we'll have two of these, like we're having two of every straight section, and this one has got a very covered underside, so that'll look really interesting when it's sort of upside down on the ceiling, looking pretty much like that. Very cool if you ask me. But I wanted some variation for the second copy of this. So although I've got the same sort of deal with a dish piece and so on the inside to represent the hatch, I want to do a ship kind of either docking or just leaving instead. So I'm going to do a variation on our kind of airlock piece, because we'll be able to see this one. So we want to have it looking like it's about to be used. So yellow represents the sort of kind of inside surface. I was considering doing some black sort of hash marks on that with some stickers or something like that, maybe some sticker surgery, because that's an inverted 2x4 tile in that yellow. And then I've kind of mocked up one of these airlock pieces with a window in it, much like I did on the diving sets when I did a modular setup for the underwater base. So these studs here are going to attach to the back of this. So it's in the same place as on the other one, with the same tile and plate on it, top and bottom. And then through those windows, deliberately placed that way around, you can see the sort of yellow of the inside. Should I do the diagonal stripes? I think I probably should. And then we can attach the ship. But this time we don't want it completely touching. We want it hanging in midair like it's just about to dock or fly away. So yeah, I'll change all the grey bits on the bottom later. But that's why I've got these two bar pieces in trans colour, which I can put into those two half studs there, and then when they're pushed in, except that one's gone and disappeared straight inside the ship, I'll have to make sure that doesn't happen with an amendment. We've got that sort of a setup. So you can see the jet engine that apparently the pilot can crawl through as well. I'll have to put a pilot back in this one, of course, because this one should be manned, and then we've got the same deal as well. And that's another bit that's going to be a bit, you know, precarious when it's hanging from the ceiling, but hopefully it will be strong enough. It was in the old one. Well, it was firmly connected like that, I suppose, but you get the idea. So there are two more straight units with the ugly underside used in the most productive way I can think possible. The connection points to continue the donut on either side and the bars on the inside. Very good. Cool. We're really making progress. Okay, we've got a pilot in there, we've got a brick in there to stop that going in too much, and I've done some sticker surgery, making that inverted 2x4 tile stripy with hazard stripes, like some doors sort of closed together on the inside behind that hatch. And I think that looks pretty good. Basically, you know this sort of black band that you get on sticker sheets? Well, I essentially chopped one of those off, chopped it into bits, and then had it hanging off all sides. I just went round with some scissors, really. It goes right to the edge as a result. So, yeah, that looks pretty good if you ask me, for a quick job. Oh, another detail that you're never going to see, but looks awesome. Let's see if we can see it through that little bit of glass window. Only if you really peer at it. Yeah, you can. In real life, can you see that on the camera? Oh, golly, let's pull the ship off. Oh, come on. Oh, it's too firmly attached now. Oh yes, look at that. That looks absolutely great. Like something out of Alien or some other film, or Space Odyssey even, as we mentioned earlier. But yeah, that looks pretty good. If you put them in there, that should be nice and sturdy, and you'll never see that detail again. But I'm glad it's there. Wow, this thing is getting big. Have I bitten off more than I can chew, sticking this to the ceiling of the Lego room? It's nowhere near complete yet. It's already bigger than the old one, I think. Yeah, I think it is. And we've still got, what, 2 big solar array sections to add with the solar array, which are huge. 2 communications ones as well. And 2 airlocks sticking out from this in different directions. As well as then the sort of power array hub thing in the middle, which will be nice and bright and add another contrast color. So yeah, absolutely loads to add. And I just wonder how many sticky pads I'm going to need to attach all of this to the ceiling. I think last time we had about 4 or 6, can't remember. This time, well, 1 on every single segment for sure, as a minimum. And then maybe it will still need a bit of a prayer. But that is too much to do in one video, I think. So I'm probably going to call it here for part 1. And then the second part, we'll finish off those other segments, join them together, and hopefully get it all on the ceiling as a second part. But yeah, you can see why I was excited to do this. It is already looking rather good. And well, when it's on that ceiling, I can't imagine there being a better one on YouTube. So that is absolutely brilliant. So as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below. And next time on the channel, well, we'll be doing part 2 of this, no doubt. So those amendments for the marina will have to wait yet further. But I think it's going to be well worth it. So until all of that, see you! Robin in space!